Catch the beat. Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Mr. Logical Coffin. This is Sports Reports Exhorted. I am your unorthodox statistician, the Aggie Daddy, 2-5. These guitars sound like Parliament. Going left so much you thought I was Southpaw. And I got with me the even kill. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem. And he wants you to know you can have your Las Vegas, but holla at him when Las Vegas gets a game named after its streets like Monopoly. Atlantic City, stand up. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight. Tonight, we got picks. We got coaching talk. And what the hell is going on down in Miami? And for once, we ain't talking about Tua. Wild up in here. Sports Reports is ordered. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Shout out to Liquid Death. And let's get it. So, Mr. Logical, what's up, Residente? You know what I'm saying? As we come up on week 18, we got some coaches that might not be in their positions next year. So as we go back through the regular season, you know, we've seen Matt Eberflus out at Chicago. Correct. You know, we saw Dennis Allen out in New Orleans.
Correct.
You know, we saw Robert, not Mo Salah, you know, out at the Jets. And we saw the Jets interviewing Mike Vrabel today. You know,
so they also interviewed Louis Riddick for the GM position.
I saw that. They interviewed, allegedly, they're going to interview 2 other people. I forgot the names right now. But are there any other coaches on your radar besides Doug Peterson? Because I pointed that one out preseason. Is there anybody else on your radar that you think should be sweating right now?
I don't think the coach should be sweating. I think the fan base should be sweating. The Los Angeles Rams. I just feel like this could be, I need a gap year a la Sean Payton in New Orleans with Sean McVay. I think it might just be the cupboard. It's not bare, but I don't know how many more years you're going to get out of Stafford. You depend on how their playoff exit goes, what your optimism looks like going forward. So I keep my eye out on that. And I don't think it's going to be a firing. I think it'll just be an abrupt opening. So that's probably my shocking piece. I think 2 first-year coaches, maybe up to 3, could be fired. And I know it might not be that way because, you know, it's 3 black coaches. I think Atlanta, New England, and Las Vegas. I think this is all possibilities that they could potentially go.
Atlanta,
I'm not saying Raheem, like, because I think it might be a clean house situation. I think if you look at it, you're going to look at the roster moves of the last few years. You're going to be like, I don't know if the GM is our guy.
Get Fontenot out of there too, huh?
Like if you really step back and you, like I said, I know I'm a fan, but if you step back and think, okay, this is what we have over the last 4 years. This is what we've done 4 consecutive years. We took 4 offensive players in the draft. Neither one of them have really. I mean, Bijan Robinson's doing his thing. I think that's just off of natural talent. I don't think the flow of the offense has been better. Even having these players, I don't think the offense looks easier. There's so many games where they can't convert third downs. Then you pay a guy $180 million, and then you draft. So it's like, if you think about it, the people I have in the building, you could give them 1 more year together because they did muster at this point 8 wins, potentially 9. You could give them another year. I'm not saying you should fire them, but if you really evaluate, okay, because if you bring in a new GM, the first thing he's going to do is evaluate the coach. So next year, you could be kind of in the same situation you are at the end of this year, where it's like, I don't know who has to go. Sometimes you just got to rip the duct tape all the way off. I don't think it's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did happen because, like I said, I would rather marry the GM to the coach with the young quarterback and let it go that way versus chopping it up the way Chicago does and why Chicago's in the position that they're in now. New England, I just think it just hasn't looked the part. I think they have former players and former coaches that have a relationship with the Kraft family that they probably feel they can bring in that do a better job. I know Gerard Mayo is a former player, but I just think if you look at it, same thing. If you look at it bird's eye view, a lot of this might have to change, and I'm not sure that the guy who got us to this point has enough, pivot in his philosophy to get us there. And I think the Vegas Raiders, I think Antonio Pierce is like, just like the whole. I think they wanted them to tank. I think they wanted them to lose.
Talk to let's go.
Yeah, so it's just like this whole.
He's defiant.
I get he's defiant, but also he's looking like, if you fire me, you still got to cut my check. So I admire him for that piece. But
so let's stay there for a second. So when I look at Antonio Pierce, I want him to succeed, right? I'm all about the black head coach plight. But when I look at Antonio Pierce, it's one of those situations where he only got the job because of the galvanizing effect that he had on the players. So it wasn't
and they didn't hire Tom Telesco.
Right. It wasn't like hey, this guy is a coach that we feel confident that he can take us to the next level or that next step. It's just the players like him. And that's always a toss-up. Like you have some situations that work, like Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, where he was the players' coach and people had their judgments at first, but now we're seeing it kind of smoothing out. Antonio Pierce has shown us nothing to this point.
And the team is in a bad position personnel-wise as well. So I think they're looking like, listen, if we lose a couple of games, maybe we could be in a sweepstakes for one of these top two quarterbacks. And I don't know exactly what draft order is right now. Yeah, so it's like when we needed you to win, you couldn't get wins. But we're telling you, like, you know what, just play it out. Now all of a sudden you want to put wins together. So I think that could be a firing simply because it's just he's gonna dare them to fire him.
Right. And so there were a couple of coaches that I thought about. Now, I don't think all these dudes are going to get fired or anything, but these are just names that I think we may just at least hear talk about, even if they don't get fired. So needless to say, I'll just start with Brian Daboll. I don't necessarily think he should be fired because I think that he was just given a crappy situation to begin with. Like when you don't I ain't going to get too deep into it, but when you don't bring back Saquon Barkley and you decide to give Daniel Jones $40 million a year, you don't get to blame me for the team failing. So that's number one. But I think you could hear his name potentially as it's up in the air, 50-50.
He's gonna be one of those. Like I said, this is gonna be a catchphrase I'm used for this time. The bird's eye view. Mara sat in that office, and I know these are just clips from Hard Knocks, and these are just clips from the internet. But I'm gonna surmise that from the conversation when he said, "I'm gonna have trouble sleeping at night if Saquon goes to Philly."
Right.
Saquon goes to Philly, rushes for over 2,000 yards, has looked good all year long, and you wouldn't give him $2 more million because they were giving him like 10.8 with the franchise. He went to Philly 3 years. They had all 39.
The unrealistic incentives.
Yeah. So then you couldn't get $1 million from this guy's contract, $1.5 million from this guy's contract, and a few million from another group of people's contract and make it work so I can keep Saquon.
And it's not like you're paying.
I see if Philly gave him 17.8.
You're not paying a top receiver. You're not paying a top corner.
He went there for $13 million.
You're not paying a top linebacker.
10.8, and you probably lowballed him and offered him 10.5. They probably offered him 2 years, $21 million. And he was like, "Yo, we can't go 3 years, $36 million." They were like, "I don't." That's why he said, "Do I really want to give the ball to a $12 million running back?" He said that a few times. So I'm assuming Saquon would have been willing to stay there 3 years.
And that's how dumb sports are now, because this offseason, you're going to see running backs start to get paid again.
Yeah, especially free agent ones.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
I think Daboll's out of there because I think the GM's out of there.
Just clean house.
I think it's a clean house because you're in the perfect spot for it because you're off the quarterback contract that no one liked that the GM wrote or signed off on.
You'd have a top 4 or 5 draft pick.
You're gonna have a top 4, realistically, 4 draft pick. You're gonna have the market. You know how like people always sell the market. You got the New York market. You have a dedicated fan base. You have a great stadium, great facilities. I just think that you got a clean house, right. And you got to do it immediately. Like as soon as their game is probably one of the earlier games, I want people out of the building by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Like go ahead, have your bags packed, or we'll get you a pod, or we'll get you, some of those hardworking people who came across the border for a better life. Help you pack up your office and pack up your truck and get you out of here.
Right. So another coach that I was thinking about, another one that I don't think should be fired.
I got one of those too.
But you just got to think about what the season has looked like. Kevin Stefanski.
God damn. That's mine.
Oh, okay. Well, I got another one. I'll give you that one. I got another one.
I knew we were going to be in line because I haven't heard anyone say that because everyone's looking like, yo, this isn't his fault.
It's not.
It's like you gave him. He's in more of a precarious situation.
You ready for this one?
Than Daniel Jones.
You ready for this one? So Bailey Zappi, Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, is starting tomorrow. Since the year I graduated high school, 1999, he's the 40th starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in that window. Kevin Stefanski, we were just on here last season debating whether it's him or DeMeco Ryans for Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year.
You know what I mean? So I don't think that he should be fired, but we're talking about the Browns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I got 2 other coaches in this whole should they be fired, but they might be fired conversation. I got 2 more.
Got 2 more.
Yeah. Ready?
Okay.
Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
Not because he did anything wrong, but Irsay in that franchise. They have the NFL leads, the league leader in tackles right now, and they're still 27th in defense, 26th against the run. They lost the game at the Meadowlands last week with the playoffs on the line. He talked about how it's not a big deal if the players are late and all this. First of all, like, you're an NFL head coach. I know that the world has changed. I know society has gotten a little bit softer, if you will, but you're still an NFL coach, and the NFL is one of the places where you're still allowed to be an asshole.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but Richardson's been hurt. You know what I mean? Of course, again, he might play this weekend. We'll see, but
he might be replaced.
But it's one of those.
He had a higher draft pick. I could see him getting replaced.
But it's one of those things where, like I said, I think Steichen he should get another year just because we saw the work that he put into Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts hasn't necessarily, he's looked better this season, but Jalen Hurts this last 2 years without Steichen, we've been talking about how bad he is and if he's a top 10 quarterback or not. When Steichen was there, we were like, yo, should he be MVP over Patrick Mahomes? So I think he should get another year, but just because of the franchise that we're talking about.
I think people are fed up with the GM. I think the rumblings with the media. I know Pat McAfee talked about it. So I think once that kind of conversation gets legs and people start running with it, then it gets to, I'm pretty sure the local media already has their rumblings. Mm-hmm. And, Irsay is an erratic kind of guy. Like, he's a Nepo baby. He got the team because his dad was a good businessman. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing saying, like, outside of Peyton Manning, like, what has your organization done in 26 years?
Right. I mean, they had the Andrew Luck years. They made an AFC championship game, but
that was because Peyton Manning got hurt and then
they had the number one draft.
Yeah, it wasn't like you made a move to like go from 6 to 1 because
he fell into your lap.
Andrew Luck. He fell into your lap.
Right.
And it's like every other opportunity is very similar to a lot of teams that just basically just get a guy and then everything kind of works out. And then after a few years, like, oh, you guys don't know how to pick players. These two just fell in your lap, and this free agent decided to come because he's from there, and you guys had a nice little run.
All right, so I got one more, but then I got a wild card.
Okay.
So my categories were, I think you're going to get fired. Your Doug Petersons, Antonio Pierces. You might get fired, but you shouldn't. Your Stefanskis and Steichens. Now I'm going to give you my 2-5 rant and, a guy that should be watching his back. All right. So the 2-5 rant. Come on down to the carpet, Brian Callahan. Now, I don't normally like to fire first-year coaches. And no, this is not because the Titans were my love of the year. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with
definitely a complete 180.
But because I like the roster moves that they made, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt of, they went out and got, the linebacker right before the season started that they traded to Seattle anyway from the Rams. They went and got L'Jarius Sneed. They went in, so I was like, hey, they went and got Calvin Ridley. So I was like, hey, they're making moves. Like, they're not winning the Super Bowl, but whatever. So anyway, so he came from Cincinnati. He was the offensive coordinator under Zach Taylor. Maybe Zach Taylor was the offensive coordinator after all, right? Because this is my problem. So when you hire defensive coaches like Eberflus, Staley, so on and so forth, we talk about how it's a detriment to your young quarterback because they're so defense-centric. They might not even hire the right coordinators because they're focused on their piece of the ball, their side of the ball. So in this scenario, you went out and got an offensive coordinator. You got a second-year quarterback who showed a little bit last year. Like nobody thought he was going to be a Pro Bowler or anything, but he showed a little bit last year. To say that Will Levis has regressed is the understatement of the year. But not only is it that, you're 31st in pass offense. You're 24th in rush TDs. So if you're going to be low in passing, you got to make it up somewhere else. They're 26th in total touchdowns. They lost to Jacksonville twice. They lost to Eberflus. They lost to Saleh, who ain't on the job anymore. You know what I mean? So, and your team didn't get better. So, like with the Panthers, right? They benched Bryce Young at a point this year. Andy Dalton came in. When Andy Dalton got hurt, Bryce Young came back. It looked like something might have clicked. And Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator at Tampa last year.
I think Dave Canales knows the kind of owner you work for will fire you after 1 year.
Well,
so
that too,
you gotta press it. Right. Callahan, once again, I get it. Football and most industries are your father does it.
Nepo baby.
You're probably gonna get involved. He hired his father. Will Levis just was never a good – he wasn't good at Kentucky. He just looks the part.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look the part, people will give you a benefit. It's the pretty privilege.
If Brian Callahan wasn't white, people would call him a DEI hire.
Yeah, I mean, I think people still – they're so bad, I think people don't notice who the coach is. And you remember – situation is like he sees – Will Levis – I think Will Levis putting mayonnaise in his coffee. He looks weird, quirky. Like I say, he looks the part. He just doesn't play well.
And I get it. The NFL Callahan cussed him out too.
You know what I'm saying? That game when he did it 2 weeks in a row.
Which is fine if you're a tenured head coach. You know what I mean? But in year one,
that's perfect. I absolutely
maybe to some degree. No. This is sports, right? That stuff works if you're winning. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do that if you're winning.
2 weeks in a row in the red. He did the same thing,
and they've only got worse since. You know what I mean? At one point,
well, that's why I think he's going to keep his job because Will Levis is so bad.
He's going to be the next Daniel Jones, right? Like he's probably out of there this offseason.
He does because he's a third round pick, so I don't think he's guaranteed.
So maybe you give him another year, but if you do so, I think you're just delaying the inevitable. That might be a little unfair. But I'm rolling with it.
I think Callahan at
with it.
Draft pick 2, they're playing
the Texans this weekend, who's resting their starters,
players.
But Houston probably will still beat them. They already playing Mason Rudolph. They already
with Davis Mills, they'll probably still beat him. So you're in the running for either one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, or you're in the running to get a bunch of pieces from Vegas when they move up.
Yeah, no, in Tennessee, they'll end up with Jalen Milroe.
I think the coach is good there. The quarterback is done now.
All right, and then my wild card. And this is one of those like double entendres kind of, because if Nick Sirianni loses in the wild card round, you out of here, bro. Especially if Washington loses to Dallas this weekend, end up as the 7. You play Washington for time number 3, and you lose a first round game with a rookie quarterback coming into your house, first-year head coach, 2,000-yard rusher, top 2 or 3 defense in the league. You might got to go, dog. And if Jordan Love come in there and do what he did to Dallas last year, you might have to go, dog.
I don't think Philly has a Sirianni problem, though. I think we have a Sirianni problem.
No, I don't know if it's a Sirianni problem.
I don't think the team, I don't think the GM, I don't think the players, I don't think there's a problem with Sirianni. I think from the outside, we think he looks obnoxious and childish, and he's ill-prepared, and he's brash, and he's braggadocious. I think that's our problem.
So I look at it kind of similar.
Anybody in the building has that problem.
I look at it kind of similar to how I was looking at Doug McDermott last year. You know what I mean? Like, so Doug McDermott got shot a little bail because they stripped the roster down some.
Sean McDermott.
But Sean McDermott, yeah, up in Buffalo. Yeah. So since they overachieved this year, that buys you a certain credibility. And, you know, so even if Buffalo gets upset early or loses to Kansas City again, maybe he won't be in trouble now because they overachieved and you got an MVP. But with Sirianni,
example, I think that we, the people outside of the Buffalo organization, felt like losing to Kansas City again was a death note. I don't think that makes sense to the people inside the building.
Maybe it may be, but the difference
who
is
you're replacing Sirianni with.
But the difference is that
Ben Johnson.
Y'all went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. You know, you replaced both your coordinators. So you started at 10-1 last year?
Yeah,
and it all came crashing down.
Personality conflicts.
Yeah, it all came crashing down. Just 3 weeks ago, we were on here talking about AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, and is this going to take them again? Now it hasn't yet, or whatever, it hasn't. But you're finishing with the number 2 seed. You know what I mean? And you're going to play either your division rival with a rookie quarterback that you should stomp, or you're going to play Jordan Love, who shouldn't catch you off guard because we saw what he did at Jerry World in the playoffs last year.
Okay, so I just division rival.
So I just think that if you lose in the first round, you know what I mean? Like, you got the 2,000-yard rusher. You still got AJ Brown. Devontae Smith is better. Goddard's been healthy. Your defense is number 1 or 2 in the league right now. You can't lose in the wild card round. You can't. Because you replaced your coordinators again. So usually when you feel like your job is on the line, and I'm not saying that Sirianni felt that way, but normally with head coaches, when you start replacing coordinators, it's more like, hey, my job is on the line, so I gotta get an extra year. So Steichen and Gannon both left because they got a head coaching job. But then the guys that were the coordinators last year are gone. Now you got 2 new coordinators all over again, to include Vic Fangio.
Yeah, and then you look at
how much do you
their
need?
Season. You look at their season. Right now they're 13-3.
Mm-hmm.
2 of their losses are
Jalen Hurts got hurt.
No, not even that. Devontae Smith, a sure-handed wide receiver, dropped the pass. That would have been a first down. That would have ended that game. And then Saquon Barkley, a sure-handed receiver, dropped the pass on the third down. That would have ended that game. So there are 2 drop passes from 15-1 right now.
And
So I
Jalen Hurts got hurt against Washington. They could be 17-0 for real.
Yeah, so it's like I don't think, like I said, we outside looking at Sirianni, I think we all feel he's obnoxious. And it's like, this can't be the way a head coach is. But I think in the Philly organization, they're looking at it like this. If I fire this guy after he potentially, say Drew Lock plays his heart out again this week, or whoever they start, maybe they pull somebody out of the audience that can fit a jersey and kind of throw the ball so they ensure that they keep their top 4 draft pick. Who knows? Let's say they win this game. Philly wins it. That means they're 14-3. You fired Chip Kelly after he went like 20-12 in 2 seasons. You fired Doug Peterson a season removed from winning a Super Bowl. And then you
know what he did.
You fire Sirianni the season. So he's 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Then they had double-digit wins and what people are calling some like on the saying first things first, a supernatural funk. And then they come back and then they win 13, 14 games and you fire them because of a playoff loss. If I'm a new coach coming in, I don't know if I want to be part of that.
If I'm a new coach coming in, I want A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I want Jaden Carter.
They all had that. They all had
William Mitchell. I want Cooper DeJean.
They had all of that. I don't want.
But that's why they can't go out like that. Now, I'm not saying
wins as my benchmark number or NFC Championship or bust in my first year as a head coach.
I'm not saying that if Philly doesn't go to the Super Bowl, he should be fired. I'm not saying that if they don't get to the NFC Championship game, he should be fired. You just can't lose that wild card game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know where you go. I don't like if you're in a dating pool and someone described their ex and they said nothing but great things about him, and then you like what happened? Like the night before the wedding, she farted, so I called the wedding off. You're like,
you know what?
Dog, I can't introduce you to if that happened, I know about the set of a relationship. If you make that move, and I get it, farting may bother you, but what you called off,
because you might have to let it ring like Virginia Williams, bro.
You call off a first date because you get in the car, y'all just meet, that person farts, and it's like, yo, we just met.
I'm just saying, they lose in the first round. Nothing was the same.
We got people flying in for a destination wedding, and you get a fart, and it's like, oh no, this is it. Like you're not getting a good replacement after that. Philly. I wouldn't say. Listen,
don't lose in the first round. Don't lose to Washington in the first round. I'm gonna leave it like that. And then we'll see. So those are the names that I was thinking about. Vrabel's making his rounds. I heard Brian Flores' name and Ron Rivera potentially for the Bears. So go hire another defensive coach, I guess.
I think McCarthy gets extended in Dallas just because I don't know if Jerry wants to learn a new personality or try to mold another person.
But if I was McCarthy, I might want to leave.
I would definitely use that as my leverage.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But, it is week 18. Dudes are not playing. But we got guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, said coming out the woodwork to make a start. So we're going to take it from the top and start with tomorrow. I mentioned earlier, Bailey Zappi is the starting quarterback, for the Browns. Mr. Logical. Mr. Logical.
I'm listening.
Have you seen the line on this Baltimore-Cleveland game?
Is it 17.5?
It was 17.5. It's 20. It's 20.
Is Lamar playing?
Yes.
Why is he playing? Oh, because they got
to win the division. Yeah, they still got to win the division. But the reason I brought that up, this is the highest spread.
He better not run the ball at all. It should be handoffs. I don't want Lamar touched at all. I'm bringing up practice squad running backs. We're going to run the ball like Mac Jones. Remember that when they ran it 48 times against Buffalo?
Yeah.
I don't want Lamar doing anything in this game to get
Well,
hit by Myles Garrett.
This is the biggest spread in the NFL game since 2013, back when Satan Manning was quarterbacking the Denver Broncos against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The most recent high was 20. It was the Houston Texans in 2021 at Arizona. And then 3 weeks before that, they were 19-point underdogs at Buffalo. So the Cleveland Browns are in rarefied air right now. And 20 still might not be enough.
Cleveland's going to shock the world and cover the spread.
Well, it's kind of crazy because, Jameis Winston, that was the first game that he started when they shocked Baltimore. Cedric Tillman in the back of the end zone early, late in the fourth quarter there. DTR had to be sat down regardless if Cleveland's tanking or not. But I guess if you are tanking, you would have played him because 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, below 40 passer rating, below 20 QBR. Like, I don't know what we're doing with DTR. But, yeah, give me the Ravens, and they might just cover this 20-point spread.
I must say they won't cover because I imagine they're going to go up by
20.
21
and take the starters out.
I'm going to say they're 27-3 at halftime. Lamar's not playing the second half. I think we got Josh Johnson. Maybe he'll hand the ball off a bunch to, I think Henry's going to sit. I think just back.
Oh, you got Justice Hill?
Yeah, I think no, like in the second half.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I just think through the back and forth of having backups on Baltimore in the second half playing that somebody's going to pop one for Cleveland and the final score is going to be like 27-10. It'll be something, reasonable. I don't because once you're up 3 possessions on a team that's probably we figure they'll get 6 first half possessions. Lamar's Baltimore's going to probably score quick. They'll get 3, maybe we'll say 5 first half possessions, and they might get 1 to field goal range. Once I'm up 3 possessions, when I get to the second half, I'm like, I don't need any of my starters in there other than my starting offensive line.
I wish Derrick Henry could get to 2,000 yards.
How many yards does he need? Like 400?
He needs like 217.
I mean, he's popped a couple for 80.
Yeah,
already.
All right.
So we see Saquon top 2 for 70.
So I got a question.
He pops 80 and the 70 in the first half.
I got a question for you. Where your black Air Force Ones at?
Oh, Mike Tomlin?
Yes. They got the Cincinnati Bengals coming in. The Bengals have to win this game to keep their chances alive, but they still need Miami and Denver to lose. So with that being said, they're, AFC North game, if the Ravens somehow lose this game to the Browns, the Steelers can win the division. The line on this game, and this is where I get into the Mike Tomlin thing where might be just slight disrespect. Bengals favored by 2.5 going into the former ketchup bottle. And, look.
I think that's because Joe Burrow has been putting up 3 touchdowns.
No, I think it's just because Pittsburgh's been awful over the last 3 weeks.
Pittsburgh haven't put up a lot of points. And
right.
Joe Burrow's is I don't think it's a slight to Mike Tomlin. I think it's more
but I think he can sell it to the team.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they beat Cincinnati 4 weeks ago, 44-38 over in.
I'd play in all black uniforms if I was Pittsburgh.
Over in the Queen City, no disrespect to Residente because he don't like that, but since that game, the Steelers are averaging 13.3 points a game. Joe Burrow is 359 yards away, so if this turns into one of those 44-38s. He's 359 yards from being just the 10th quarterback to finish with 5,000 yards. He might need it if the secondary plays against Pittsburgh the way they played last week. George Pickens should be back. And I sent you the clip about him, did Russell say that or are you saying that? Yeah. So I don't know if Pittsburgh is in a good place right now. I just think that
I think they're always like that. I think most teams have like that the ebbs and flow and the outside noise. I just think Mike Tomlin, the only way you can continue to win at the clip that he does win year in and year out is if you truly have the hearts and the minds of the players in the locker room to believe whatever you tell them. Because every year they performed above their pay, above their pay grade every year, and it's like that has to be attributed to the coach at some point. Because if they played under every single time, we'd be like, yo, the coach not getting them ready. So the fact that they play over every time, it seems like okay, maybe he has something. It's strange because I think the Joe Burrow for MVP conversation that you and I were talking about last week. Now
it's taking off, right?
Everybody's talking about it. Sports Order says it, and now all of a sudden,
trendsetters.
Everybody's on it now.
I'm far out from God, but I work. Never mind.
No, I'm saying God did. So like I said, we had a conversation last week, and it's reasonable despite the current. Was it at 8-8 right now? It's like they're 8-8. They got 8 wins because of Joe Burrow. They got 8 losses because of their defense. So I'm saying it's like they
don't got 8 wins because of Burrow. It's like 6-0.
No, it's 7 games in a row. He's thrown for 3 touchdowns.
I know, but he's had some stinkers. He's had some stinkers too.
I don't think. We looked at it. I think it might be 1. So we'll give him 7 wins. 7 wins are on Joe Burrow, 1 win on the defense, 8 losses.
So if this was the NBA, Joe Burrow would lead the league in win shares.
Win shares, absolutely. So I think that does factor to it. And he has like, he's like 1,000 yards more passing than Josh Allen, who's probably your leading MVP. He's in the same division with Lamar Jackson. It would have helped if they could have beaten him. But like I said, this is a big game. Head over heart. I'm going to go heart. Take Pittsburgh just because I've been riding with Mike Tomlin all year. And they're at home. It's going to be cold. Like I said, it's already snowing out here right now. I imagine that cold is going to be around the whole weekend. So I don't
that lake effect up in Allegheny County.
Yeah, so I know Joe Burrow is from Ohio. They play outside. For some reason, the Bengals don't have an outdoor practice facility, and high schools in Ohio have them. That's neither here nor there, Mike Brown. You might want to spend a little bit of money. I just feel like Pittsburgh in that environment, you got to be able to run the ball. I'm not sure if Cincinnati can not call pass plays.
I actually like Pittsburgh too. Surprisingly. Chase Brown busted up his ankle last week, so we'll see if he can go. Sam Hubbard, one of the few good Cincinnati defensive players, hasn't been practicing this week. But something that stood out to me about the first time that they played, when Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris caught the ball out of the backfield, combined 122 yards after the catch.
So the defense is not there.
Yeah, the defense.
Whatever the scheme is they're not.
I want to pick Cincinnati.
They don't adjust on the fly.
I want to pick Cincinnati just because the playoff is on the line, but I just don't think I can get there. I don't think I can get there.
I see a lot of screen passes. I see a lot of flat passes to Warren and Najee Harris. We talk about the defensive head coach. I think Arthur Smith, I wasn't really a big fan of his play calling in Atlanta because I thought it was just kind of predictable. But I think on Sunday, he's going to need it to we need to just get points and stops. If we can run the ball, we need to hold on to the clock because in that game against Philly, they didn't get the ball in the second half.
Right.
They couldn't get any stops. So it's like ball control offense, keep the MVP candidate on the sideline and send them home because the last thing you want, because I think Pittsburgh's in no matter what, right?
Yes, they're in no matter what. So if Baltimore loses, they'll have a chance to win the division. If not, and they win, they go to Houston next week. If they lose, that opens the door for the Chargers to jump them, and then Pittsburgh will go to Baltimore next week.
Yeah, so they have a lot on the line. Like I said, with those 3 different scenarios, like winning you're in or winning you get better positioning, I think Pittsburgh's going to handle that a little bit better.
And then, and one quick thing, real quick, before we go to the next game, can the media please stop with this whole Kansas City doesn't want Cincinnati to get in thing? Like, just we'll get back to that. Knock it off. So let's skip to Sunday night. You see
14
it on the
teams make the playoffs.
You see it on the screen there. How the North was won. So up at Ford Field, the Purple People Eaters are coming through. Detroit as a 2.5-point favorite. And Mr. Logical, I will have you know that I do like the over in this game, even though it's at 55.5. Because I don't think a lot of defense is going to be played in this game.
55.5.
You know my favorite thing about this game?
27-24 is 51. That's still pretty high scoring. 30-24 is still, that's the high scoring game. That's 55.5 is okay.
Mm-hmm. All right.
There's a real shootout.
So real quick, before I turn it over to you, I'm going to give you my favorite thing about this game, and I'm going to give you my least favorite thing about this game. So my favorite thing about this game, Minnesota is 9-1 in one-score games this year. Detroit is 6-1 in one-score games this year. So neither team is going to falter down the stretch. So, I'm here for that. The thing that I hate the most about this game is this media-driven Brian Flores fired Ben Johnson in Miami thing. Because first of all, when the new head coach comes in, they usually don't keep any of the previous staff. So, but that's the thing I've been hearing all week is he fired Ben Johnson when he took over Miami.
Once again, has nothing to do with either one of them. They have head coaches for each one of these teams.
No, but anyway, what are your thoughts on this game?
Head coach of the year. This is something I hate about it. It just popped in my head. The loser of this game is going to be
probably going to LA.
It's going to have 14 wins.
Probably going to LA.
I don't want to hear the conversation about reseeding and is it fair? No, I don't want y'all to start talking that shit down. When you come into the season, the
division champ shouldn't get up. Oh, never mind. Wrong score.
Win your division, get home playoff game. I know the 12-team playoff, the other sport we'll get to it. Everyone's like, oh my God, all these things are not right. It's not a perfect system.
What's up, Alabama?
It is a system that is established. It is a system that you enter the season knowing full well what the parameters are. So, is it going to be hilarious that it's going to be a 14-win team on the road in the playoffs? Yes. But they're going to get they're going to get a team they can beat handily. So, it's like, yeah, you don't get a home game. But if you go to LA is basically home games for every visiting team. I'm not on the Rams. Like, you can cut it out. Like, I'm not a Rams guy. My bad. People who are. So, like I said, I like the fact that it's prime time. I like that there's something on the line. I'm already gonna like the trick play that Detroit's gonna run. It's gonna be cool.
I'm waiting for them to run a play where Dan Campbell ends up in the end zone.
Yo, I guarantee you, he has a shoulder pads in his office. There's an 86 Campbell uniform in the closet, and he can activate himself for one game, for one play, just to run block. He probably would just run block. He wouldn't even want to run a route. Like, I just want to run, like, when I hit someone.
Who you got?
Flip a coin. I'm going to take the home team.
Okay.
I guess theoretically this would be the first pressure game for Sam Darnold because I don't think he played any big college football pressure games, and I don't recall any NFL ones. So this is like the first win, and like this win immediately transfers to something that's like grandiose. So I don't know how he performs in that. I know Jared Goff. I buy into Jared Goff. I like how he plays. So I'll take Detroit and they're at home.
So I'm going to be a little hyperbolic for a second.
Let's hear it.
If Detroit doesn't win this game, this whole season might be down the drain. Like to get this far and not end up with the number 1 seed and losing it on your home field. But why is that important? Because the loser of this game, as you mentioned, is the 5 seed. Since the playoffs originally expanded in 1978. Only 3 5 seeds have made the Super Bowl. So the difference in this game could literally be whether you're in New Orleans or not at the end of this year, or in the next month or so. So from there, I think it's going to be tough. Neither one of these.
If they're the 5, I don't think they go to LA.
Well, from what I was reading,
they're going to go to Tampa Bay or
from
Atlanta.
From what I was reading, if Tampa wins and the Rams lose, because the Rams are sitting people, then Tampa would jump the Rams.
Why would you sit people?
Because they already got the division.
If I'm looking at it like I might have to play Minnesota or Detroit, I'm not sitting at 4. Who's at 6? Green Bay?
Washington?
Yeah. I'd rather take the rookie over whoever comes out of NFC North.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. This is what I mean with the Rams. This was like, yo.
Yeah, so the Rams are 3.
Be surprised if people are leaving the building because like that's not a strong move to me.
Yeah, because the Rams are 3 because they're 10-6 and Tampa's 9-7. But the thought is Tampa wins and the Rams lose since they're resting people. And if that happens, then Tampa goes in front of the Rams. So that's why I said what I said. But
that's what, okay, yeah.
Because I'm picking Seattle to beat the Rams. But yeah, so I think that both of these defenses are pitiful when it comes to the pass, surprisingly, because all we talk about and hear about is Brian Flores sending the house. Problem is they get torched. So Detroit is 27th against the pass. Well, I'm sorry, they're second worst against the pass, so they're 31st. Minnesota's 28th. So it's not as if we're talking leaps and bounds here.
And they're safe with 9 picks.
But the Lions are good enough against the run to keep Minnesota one-dimensional. They need the bye because they need the rest players. They got all these injuries going on, and they just probably need that extra week to get some fresh bodies for the divisional round. But I'm taking Minnesota anyway.
I mean,
the pressure's on the Lions. You know what I'm saying? You're the ones that were expected to be here. You're the one that's been the class of the league all season. I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, the Lions they underachieved.
No, but the Lions came into this year, or I shouldn't say came into this year. They came into this year as NFC Championship game hopefuls at the worst. After about week 7, or whenever they won that game against the Texans where they threw the 5 picks, they went on the little historic run. Jared Goff was Dan Marino reincarnated. Saying Gibbs was Thurman Thomas. Montgomery was Emmitt Smith.
I don't think any.
Amon-Ra St. Brown was Jerry Rice
and predicted it, but that is it's bananas. What happened in the NFC North this year, mainly because I think Green Bay could represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So you got 2 teams that are sitting at 14 wins, and I think the 3rd place team in that division could that's how good that division is.
Even though Green Bay hasn't beat either one of them this year. How about that?
And they haven't beat Philly, but I just have a feeling I just like the way they're playing down the stretch.
Okay. So, I brought it up a few minutes ago. Stop with the Kansas City does not want. So people were saying, oh, Kansas City's not going to play Mahomes and all this stuff because they're trying to block Cincinnati. No, they're not playing Mahomes and these guys because they already got the number 1 seed locked down. It would be idiotic to play those dudes. Like, what? You're trying to keep Denver out? Like, if anything, if you didn't want Cincinnati in, you know what I mean? Like, you would just literally not play Carson Wentz, because I think that Kansas City can still keep this game close, even though Patrick Mahomes isn't playing. So I don't think that matters as much because Kansas City's defense is still good enough. Denver is favored by 10.5. And I'm still betting live money out of my pocket that Kansas City is going to cover that. You know what I mean? And the total is 40.5. Now, with that being said, Denver has had a chance to clinch this playoff berth for a few weeks now. They could have beat Cincinnati last week. They could have won the week before to put pressure on Cincinnati.
They should have won for 2.
They should have went for 2. They should have. We said that in real time. But you know, saying Carson Wentz said, "I'm back, reincarnated."
Listen, I saw the
This is why you can't tank.
Darren Sproles interview with Shady and Deshaun Jackson. He talked about how, Carson Wentz wasn't throwing the ball when he was at the first read because he kept throwing to the tight end. It's a lot of tight ends that run routes in Kansas City, so I figured Carson Wentz is going to. And Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate until he tore his ACL. So Denver,
and this is why you can't
really
tank.
slack.
This is why you can't tank, because somebody might bring Carson Wentz in next year, depending on how he looks right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's still trying to stay around.
You can't tank just because everybody's out there auditioning. Even the guy who got called up from the practice squad to be the right guard for the Raiders this week is auditioning to be on somebody else's practice squad, or maybe he could be the right guard starting for the Jets next year. He has no idea, but what he puts on tape this week could determine that. So you can't slack. Still an NFL game. Yeah, you're going to have some advantages with like a team like Baltimore playing against Bailey Zappi when Baltimore has to play for the division. You're not going to slack.
Right.
And whoever New Orleans puts on the field could be tough because they've been having trouble fielding that backup quarterback position for the last 8 or 9 weeks with Derek Carr coming in and out of the lineup. So we get that it's tough, but when you have a former starter like Davis Mills, Houston versus Tennessee, if they start Davis Mills, he started for like a whole season. He was the number 1 rated quarterback coming out of high school. He really had a decent college career. He could beat you with the people who are auditioning from Houston to go to another team. Like we talked about the 25% changeover. There's going to be guys out there. There's going to be guys out there running way harder, tackling really hard, running these routes, trying to get something on film to where they could be on a contender next year, or even just ensure themselves a spot on the current team or another team next year.
Yeah, and just like the great HBK Shawn Michaels said, I'm the champ and I don't lay down for nobody. So, believe in Denver that much if you want to. I'm going to pick Denver to win, but don't be surprised if this still comes down to the wire and Denver needs a drive or a field goal or something to ice this game. All right, so then you got Washington coming into Jerry World with my MVP, Jaden Daniels, with his 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 111.3 passer rating on the road this season. Austin Eckler coming back from injury. Washington's locked and loaded and ready for the 6th seed. But as I say all that, I remember what happened a couple of weeks ago.
Are they going to play him?
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you got to. Because, well, okay, so follow me here. So I'm the type of dude, because I'm a fan. I'm not on the staff. I'm not in the locker room. So for me, my motto is you just got to play who's in front of you. And if you want to go to the Super Bowl, you got to count on having to beat a good team at some point. If I'm on the staff and in that locker room, I might say to myself,
put your hoodie on.
If we win, we avoid Philly. We avoid Philly. So I could either play Philly or I could play the Rams or Tampa.
How you getting the 5?
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I said that wrong. My bad.
Yeah.
I can avoid Philly. And hold on, who's 3? No, the Rams are 3 right now. So if the Rams win and I'm 6, I would play the Rams.
Well, you got 11 wins right now. So
I can't win the division.
Can't win the division.
So Washington's either going to be 6 or 7.
So 5 is going to be
the Minnesota-Detroit loser.
Minnesota-Detroit loser. Green
Bay is 7.
Green Bay only has 10 wins.
Yes.
Oh, they got the tiebreaker.
So Green Bay is 7 right now.
Green Bay is 11-5.
They're 11-5, just like Washington, but Washington's ahead. So if Washington wins, Washington's locked into the 6, Green Bay's locked into the 7. If Washington loses and Green Bay wins, Green Bay can get into the 6, Washington goes to the 7. So if I'm Washington, I got to win this game if I don't want to play Philly for the 3rd time.
So every team in NFC playoffs
is still
to
playing for
potentially
positioning.
be double-digit wins. If the
Yep.
Buccaneers win their 3 at 10-7, the Rams, if they decide to sit and fall to 4, which I don't know if that would be a
Garoppolo's
wise
starting, so
move.
I'm just saying it's out there.
So they potentially fall into 4 with 10 wins. Then your 5 seed is going to be a
Minnesota or
14-win
Detroit.
team.
Mm-hmm.
And then your 6 seed is
It's
at
an
least
11.
an 11 or
Yep.
12-win team.
Uh-huh.
And your 7 seed can still be a 12-win team.
Right.
That's chaos.
Yeah. So, but that's
Those are
what I'm
AFC
saying
numbers.
though. I'm picking Washington to win, but I'm just saying that like I can imagine somebody somewhere is saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's push off a third Philly game as long as we can." But Washington is favored by 6. Your over under is 43.5, down from 45.5 where it opened. So there you go. Who you rolling
The
with?
Commanders' win probability is 72%.
It was probably about the same last time they played Dallas.
I'm wondering how many players Dallas is going to sit.
Well, I know, they already shut down CD Lamb. Diggs is out for the season already. So we'll see.
Is
We'll
Micah
see.
going to play? Is the defensive line going to play? Is
I
Cooper
think they'll
Rush
play at
going
least
to
a half. I
play?
mean,
Are you going to run with some practice squad QB? And
I would like to think that it's your rival. So I would like to think that you will, but we'll see. So over in your other neck of the woods, down there where they say the real cheesesteaks are,
Jersey?
No, down in Philadelphia, you got the Giants coming in. And for some strange reason, everything that I've been reading this week says that Tanner McGee is going to start the game for the Eagles. Nick Sirianni came out and crushed my dreams and said that Saquon's not going to play. And I look at this, and the Eagles are still favored by 3 in this game. And, the over-under at 37.5, I think it goes under, but the Eagles are still favored by 3 in this game, which I guess is home field, but still.
Home field, and it's the Giants, and there's so many people who already have – there's guys already have their stuff packed in that locker before they even head to Pennsylvania for this game.
So I do have a question for you, though. So I know Sirianni says Saquon's not playing. Should you roll Jalen Hurts out there for a quarter or two?
Not at all.
Because, he's been out with the concussion. He hasn't taken a live snap, in 2 weeks.
He's taken enough years. He's played enough football that him not playing 1 week to rest because he had a concussion will not hurt your chances. You know if he's good to go.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going with Philly anyway.
Yeah, I'm going with Philly no matter what.
All right,
I'm thinking Saquon might talk his way onto the field.
I hope he does, but
I don't think. Like I said, when we had the conversation,
yeah, we don't need to.
I thought it was going to be Saquon, like saying I was good, and Sirianni be like, "Nah, you can go for it." It was flipped, but
yeah. All right. So then, a game that Mr. Logical has his eyes on, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 14-point favorites. 43.5 is your over/under. The New Orleans Saints visiting Tampa. How is it that somehow, some way, the Saints hold the key to the Falcons making the playoffs?
Because the Falcons head coach didn't call a timeout last week with 34 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter in a tie game.
You remember what happened last time Tampa and New Orleans played this year? It was one of the wildest games I've seen. Like Baker Mayfield had 3 interceptions in the second quarter alone. If I remember correctly, it was Spencer Rattler's first start. The halftime score was 27-24. And then Tampa outscored the Saints the rest of the way, 24-3 and 151-27. Mike Evans.
He's about right.
Mike Evans
has incentives.
Needs 85 more yards. They hit 1,000 yards for the 11th straight season. And guess what? There's no Marcus Lattimore out there or Marshawn Lattimore out there. So give me Tampa. Give me Tampa big.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I mean, as far as the playoff hopes of the Falcons, it would be an absolute Christmas miracle for New Orleans to beat Tampa Bay.
Christmas already done
Um,
gone.
exactly. So, like that timeout, I'm hindsight. I'm gonna be thankful for that lack of that timeout because it's gonna make it should make people in the building, players, coaches, executives, really look at the team and say, was this a playoff team or are we just playing in a pitiful division? Because the stretch of 5 games where Kirk Cousins had 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions, they were 1-4, and nothing. There was no changes. No one got benched. No one was moved up. The scheme wasn't different. And then the games, like there were a couple of blowouts, and they had a couple of bad losses before then, like the Seattle game. I think they lost by 20 at home. So it's just it's if they made the playoffs, I think the whole NFC champion hat and T-shirt would blind them from the actual flaws that they need to repair. Not making the playoffs, not making the playoffs because their draft tactics and everything else. Hopefully that makes them not make me scream at the TV in the first round of the draft pick for the third year in a row, fourth year in a row at this point. Because
Right.
Kyle Pitts, I was on board with. I'm like,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
So
Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts.
word is Kyle Pitts might be in Kansas City next year.
The problem, like, and I was talking to my father about this a few months ago. I was like, the problem is they should have packaged him with to try to move up in the draft, and he was like, he's no good. I don't think people want him. I'm like, it's a different. The optics are different if you look desperate.
I
So
think
if you're
that
like, hey, I'm trying to get from 8 to 2, I'll throw in whatever, and then you go, I'll give you the first, I'll give you my 8 this year, I'll give you my first this year, Cal Pitts in the second next year, and it's like it doesn't look like you're dumping him off. It looks like you're so desperate to get from 8 to 2, you're willing to part with
I
this
think that
generational
a
talent.
dude like Kyle Pitts is talented enough, or at least people think that he's talented enough that somebody is always going to take a chance on a player like that.
The problem is certain stats, like I saw a Chris Godwin stat before the Washington game, and it said Chris Godwin hasn't played since October 21st, and he still has like 30 or 40 more receiving yards than Kyle Pitts. I mean, so it's like stuff like that. He had some catches in the touchdown. I think him and Penix might work because you got a young quarterback and a tight end, but if they were going to try to move him, they should have packaged it up in some desperation Hail Mary to try to move up in the draft, which they don't do. So
yeah. So speaking of Kyle Pitts' team, they got Carolina coming in. They're 8.5-point favorites over under 47.5. Last week without Chuba Hubbard, Tampa was able to hold Carolina to 39 rush yards. Give me the Falcons. Because that'll be what they do. They'll win the game that it doesn't matter because Tampa wins.
9-8, and they'll be drafting 17 or 18.
There you go. There you go.
They'll get some guard out of Iowa.
All right. So we got some games that, saying we're going to breeze by real quick. So you got San Francisco as a 4.5-point underdog going to Arizona. Over unders 42.5. I'm taking the 49ers anyway.
Just even though playing?
I'm not sure. But I know Kyler Murray only needs 50 more yards and a touchdown for 750,000 smackaroos.
I'll take Arizona.
All right, I'm going with the Niners. All right, then you got Buffalo, the Bills, the number 2 seed, locked in, 2.5-point favorites against New England. So Josh Allen is going to start because he just wants the consecutive streak thing going on. This will be game number 115 for him. So he's going to start. He's not going to play probably much more after the first possession if he even plays the first possession.
On the punt.
Yeah, there you go. You know, saying so. Give me New England. You know, Drake May. You know, getting it done. So
I think they'll sit Drake May.
I know. I heard.
I think
I think he'll
they'll sit
play. I think he'll play, but I think that they will play multiple quarterbacks.
When Josh Allen goes out, Drake May is going to go out
because allegedly we're going to see Joe Milton. You know what I mean? So then
that's an
you know,
audition. We're going to see a 70-yard bomb.
Up in your real neck of the woods, you know, the day one fan, Chris is going to be up in the Meadowlands for Miami, favored by 1 point over Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. It looks like it might be up to Pro Bowl Huntley to keep hope alive, provided that Denver loses. So this is the question. How bad does Miami want to go to Buffalo?
I mean, it's cold.
They better hope it's not. Hey, and up in the Meadowlands, hey, you know, it's going to be cold.
Yeah, like I said, it's already snow on the ground now. So Miami wins.
Yeah, I'm taking
Denver
Miami.
Loses and they're in.
Yes. So Cincinnati's at the bottom. Cincinnati needs both of them lose. Right. I'm taking Miami, though. I'm still like the Jets are over. I'm done with the Jets.
I'm taking the Jets because Miami doesn't win when it's cold.
Okay, fair enough. You know, then you got the Chicago Bears going up to Lambeau Field to play a team that they have not beat since 2018. For those of you keeping count at home, that's 11 straight games to go along with their 10-game losing streak this season. And speaking of the number 10, Green Bay's favored by 10. Over unders 41.5, and all I can do is take the Bears to cover. Green Bay wins.
Yeah.
Houston at Tennessee. You know, we've been talking about this game a little bit for some strange reason. Tennessee favored by 1.5 over under at 36.5. I don't think they get to the 36.5, and I don't think Tennessee wins. Brian Callahan, watch your back.
19-13. Houston wins.
Yeah, and then you got Jacksonville.
Like I said, Callahan's safe because Will Levis is so bad.
We'll see. You know, you got Jacksonville at Indianapolis. You know, it's one of those things, right? If this game was in Jacksonville, then you just pick the Colts the Jags because the Colts haven't won there since 2014.
Can't win.
You know, but it is in Indy. Indy is favored by 5. There is a chance that Anthony Richardson could play. So I'm going to just say if Anthony Richardson plays, the Colts win. If he doesn't, Jacksonville somehow pulls it out, unless they don't want to.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I imagine some guy named like Trey Thompson out of Upper Montana State is going to be the starting quarterback to ensure that Jacksonville doesn't lose their draft position. Because if they fire their coach, they have to have a sexier position in 5.
Right.
And right now, New England's probably going to lose. Tennessee's probably going to lose. Cleveland's going to lose. The Giants would be the only organization that will go out there and lay it on the line because their rivalry is like deep. Like Giants, Philly, Giants, Eagles, that's like a real rivalry. Mm-hmm. So I can see Giants players really trying to win that game. I don't know if Jacksonville, Indianapolis is a big enough rivalry for guys to really go out there and like, I really want to win this game for the 12-year rivalry we had or whatever the number is. I don't think it's that deep. I think New England's going to lose. I think Tennessee's going to lose. Cleveland's definitely going to lose. So I think Jacksonville, like I said, they're going to start some guy from Upper Montana State probably and just lose.
Well, you got the Chargers favored by 4 going into Sin City, you know, over under 41.5. So this game, I guess, will probably depend on what happens on Saturday because if the Steelers win, the Chargers are locked into their spot and happy that, you know, they'll have to go to Baltimore. So I wouldn't say they're happy, but they would end up going to Baltimore in that scenario. If Pittsburgh loses, you probably have the Chargers play so they can get out of the Baltimore game. I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Maybe they want to go with the Baltimore game to have another Brothers Bowl.
No, they don't want that. They don't want that because it's in the cold this time. You know what I mean? Last time they got Baltimore at their place, they still got mollywopped. They're not trying to freeze it.
They had the Super Bowl in New Orleans indoors.
Yeah, but like I said, though, right? Chargers might be built for the playoffs. So, you know, we'll see. You got Seattle and the Rams, over at SoFi. Seattle favored by 6.5, over under 38.5.
Geno
Jimmy
still playing for
Garoppolo getting the
incentives.
start. Seattle looking for their first 10-win season since 2020, or double digit at least, so 10 wins since 2020. Give me Seattle to close off the season on a good note.
10 wins and you're locked out of the playoffs.
Yeah. So, which is crazy too, because they got locked out last week on percentage points, even though they played the Rams this week. So you would think that the division would be on the line, but
Yeah, but there's just no space for them because of the NFC North.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. That's our picks for this week. And I just want to take a moment. I promised I was going to make a shout out. How you doing, Alabama? How you doing, guys?
I think the entire gripe post CFP rankings was completely premature, and everything always settles itself.
You know who else lost? South Carolina.
And then Ole Miss went out there and put 52 points on Duke. And it was a great season. 10 wins, and Lane Kiffin talked about 21 wins in the last 2 years. It was great. The problem was you lost bad games. You lost 3 of them.
Still never played in the SEC title game.
Like, I get it. You think you're a better team on paper because you play teams, and the team that you play generally have more guys drafted to the NFL. I understand the entire premise, but that can't be extrapolated across all the and ignore the fact that everybody can't play in the SEC. So you got to have some lines, and the line was, dog, you can't have 3 losses.
Did you happen to catch the first quarter of this game?
No, I've been just kind of running around. I caught a few of the games, but not all.
So in the first quarter, Jalen Milroe had an interception, 2 fumbles. And the thing about it though, there was no Will Johnson, who I think is the best corner in college football. There was no Mason Graham. There was no Josiah Stewart. Neither Michigan running back played. No Donovan Edwards, no Khalil Mullins. So you can't even use the excuse of we didn't want to be there and all that stuff that the SEC normally says. Michigan just put your dick in the dirt. That's what they did. And
Michigan
South Carolina.
Well, like they are one of the top recruiting schools in the Big Ten. I mean, now you got 37 teams in the Big Ten. Right. But Michigan is one of those teams. Ohio State, if there's 25-star recruits that commit to the Big Ten every year, Ohio State's probably grabbing 8 or 9. Michigan's getting 3 or 4. Then the rest of them kind of matriculate through the rest of the Big Ten schools. That's just kind of how it is. I'm one of those people, like I said, I'm facts over feelings, of logical thinker. I understood the passion of the argument as a fan of the team. Fan is short for fanatic. I understood that piece. The biggest issue I was having is when the pundits and the coaches were going on TV and going on Twitter spewing this rhetoric. It's like, dog, damn well you would be furious if 9-3 Miami, with a couple of wins sprinkled in here and there, said that they should get in over you at 11-1 Ole Miss. You would be furious that people be going on TV co-signing it. But meanwhile, like I said, before Indiana even lost a game, they would talk about how Georgia was better, and I'd have a 2-loss Georgia team in over an 11-win Indiana. It's like they hadn't even lost yet. So it's like you would not allow that kind of conversation to be sprinkled across your teams. But yet, when the results came out, these pundits, Paul Feinbaum, Lane Kiffin,
Kirk
Herbstreit, like all these guys were just on TV. Kirby Smart does it every year. Nick Saban was doing it. It's like, dog, you have to understand that you can't just get extra credit on every assignment just because you turn in late. It's like it doesn't. It's like no. Oh, it's really good. It's a good. I do good work all the time. I sit in the smart section of the classroom. Okay, cool. You still got to turn your shit in on time. SEC, you still got to win double-digit games. You can't put you in over. I get it. Like
you can't lose to the Oklahoma team.
If Wyoming was 11-0, their competition, yes, that gap from the SEC to Wyoming's competition is quite substantial. The gap between Ohio State and the ACC and the SEC and their competition, the bulk of their conference is not that far apart. Your ACC teams 4 through whatever the number is, 18, is probably on par with your SEC schools 5 through 15 or 16 or whatever they got there. Now with all these different numbers. So it's like, yo, you're not the gap at the top. Yeah, that's substantial. Like your top SEC schools are way better than your bottom ACC schools. But your bottom and middle rung ACC, SEC schools, they're on par. Hence, you can see what happened to most of them over this weekend.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So, like, South Carolina their head coach showed more fight trying to fight the opposing head coach than the team did. You know what I mean? That was a whole shit show to begin with. But
Billman he was working them.
He was.
Oh, he was working them.
He was.
Oh, I loved it. I love to see it.
And won the game.
I love to see it.
And you know what's funny about that? Illinois, 10-3, lost to Oregon, lost at Penn State, lost to Minnesota. They wasn't in this conversation.
And he wasn't on Twitter.
And that's why they wanted, and that's why they wanted to beat South Carolina. That's why he replied to Lane Kiffin one time. You know, but I got one simple question for you, Mr. Logical, because I'm done talking about losers now.
Talk about the winner.
Targeting or not?
No.
Okay.
His head was up. It was a face mask to face mask. He was looking at the guy. He was running with his head up. Receiver was coming down. He's not defenseless. You catch the ball on 2 feet in the middle of a football field, in the middle of play, nothing about that says you're defenseless. I'm sick of the verbiage. Doesn't make any sense. It's not fair to defense. You catch the ball. My job is to tackle you. He's defenseless if he's on the ground and I jump on his back. If he's standing up with the ball, I have no idea what he's going to do. Because he didn't see me coming, he's defenseless. He's not supposed to see me coming. If I'm playing good enough defense, he doesn't see me coming, then maybe I can knock the ball out of his hand. That's the whole point of me disguising where I'm doing in my coverage so that wide receiver doesn't know the safety's standing right there. So let me slide 3 yards this way, catch this pass, and turn up here. He turned into the safety. His face was up. His head was up. His arms are out. That's a proper tackling technique that people teach all the time.
Yeah, if anything, the interception that Arizona State had a few possessions earlier was targeting. I don't think that was either. I wouldn't have called it, but that one was probably more egregious than the one in question. Now, Arizona State, this goes back because we talked about this a couple of months ago. Ken Dillingham, shout out to him, year 2. He's a Sun Devil, by nature, alma mater and all of that. He got in trouble, yelled at or whatever, like the media was on him, because he got on TV and said, I'm holding tryouts for kickers. And now after watching this game against Texas, we see why. Because if they had anything that resembled a kicker, they would have pulled that upset. You know what I'm saying? There was a couple of 4th downs, and I thought about you because you're always hey, when you're playing the better team, get the points. Why are you always trying to go for it on 4th down? They went 2 for 5, but my guy Cam Scatterbo showed that he was more Willie Beeman than Donovan McNabb because he went over there and threw up and he came out and bust Texas' ass in the 4th quarter. He even threw a touchdown pass. So, and that
he was the MVP in the loss.
Yeah, and that's what goes to show you that's why we played the games, because Texas was a 13.5 to 14-point favorite. Most of the shows that I listened to had Texas winning by 3 touchdowns, I said they were going to
we had
cover. I believe you said they were
31-17
going to cover.
and 31-17, something like that.
Yeah, so like Arizona State didn't surprise me. The one thing that did surprise me, and I brought up how Arizona State had the best rushing defense in the Big 12. I still didn't think they were going to hold Texas to 53 yards rushing. So if they could have just got their hands on Matthew Golden, 7 catches, 149 and a touchdown, in that punt return, that Silas Bolden had, not a body near him, you win that game. 4th and 13, you go cover 0.
No, they
He said they were supposed to, it was supposed to be a cover 0 look that was supposed to go into cover 4.
Yes. And what happened was the DB, so the guy ran up the seam, he gave him a little hitch, and they both bit on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the replay, they both bit on it. And I was like, why'd you do anything extra creative? Why on earth would you run cover 4? Because that's where you get beat. Just right at the seam.
And it was like they were so 13.
It was 4th and 13. Like, you better playing cover 3. You better playing cover 3. You know where the sticks are. Don't play the sticks. Stay in your base defense. Like, yeah, you could give them a herky-jerky look. The problem was, giving that look we talked about with Brian Flores. You get everybody up at the line of scrimmage, and then right before the snap, everyone bails out. But if you don't bail out in time, now you panic. So the DB was in like no man's land. Dude hit him with a little hitch. He bit on it. The safety bit on it, and he ran right through. And I was like,
yeah, they would be playing next week if they just played sound defense. And did you see Julio Jones killing Oregon out there?
They did the same thing. Like on his touchdown, the one in the first half, when he ran that deep over route, Will Howard just threw it up there. He had to wait on it. He still had 10 yards.
I'm still not sold on Will Howard.
On the top defender and the underneath defender. You don't even.
But listen, but remember,
in 10th grade, he could have made that throw.
But remember, we talked about this. I said when they played the first time, I picked Oregon to win. But when I watched the game, Ohio State was the better team. It was just that Oregon was the one that they executed late. That was the difference in the game. But Ohio State dominated them everywhere but the scoreboard. So watching this game, I was shocked by the score. But I wasn't shocked at what I saw. I think Ohio State, I picked them to win the national title at the beginning of the season. I think Ohio State's going to win the national title, which is kind of ironic because they lost to Michigan. But I had a thought today, Mr. Logical. You know what I thought about? How poetic would it be for Penn State and Ohio State to play for the national title? The 2 Big Ten schools instead of 2 SEC schools. James Franklin and all the talk all week about how he can't beat Ohio State.
Listen,
could you imagine Ryan Day losing that game? Like if Penn State beat Ohio State in the national title game?
Listen, we're going to have a black head coach in the college football championship game.
Oh, the other poetic part?
First time ever.
And it's both poetic because on top of that, if Notre Dame plays Ohio State for the national title, Notre Dame's head coach played for Ohio State. So it's poetic either way. It's poetic either way. But
you know what? If the national title, Texas might try to spoil it.
No, they ain't spoiling shit. But anyway, they ain't spoiling shit.
That's the thing. We have these ebbs and flows in college football, and we're just like, oh, we're writing Texas off.
Hey, you heard what Drake told Kendrick? Nah. You following through now? Never mind. We know what happened there. So
there's no reason for Ohio State to lose, considering like what they just put on film. Like, I think you could do those same things. You could do those same things against any team you play, just because the weapons that they have put so much stress on the opposing defense
and they got the run game going.
Was it Travion?
Travion Henderson, yeah.
Travion Henderson. I had never seen a guy move that, like the low camera angle of him just by himself down the sideline. I'm like, is this fast forwarded?
You know what's crazy? He
He
ain't
was
even the
moving
one
so
that they
damn
paid the
fast.
money for in the transfer portal. That's the crazy part about it.
Yo, he was so fast when the touchdown they got put them up 31-0. I was like, I was looking at it like, I cannot believe this is happening because I get it, but in college football, we talked about it because I was playing the game. I hated the video game because it's like, how is it that these guys are this wide open? Then you watch an actual college football game, it's like, oh, one guy makes a mistake and literally
Both guys fall for the hitch.
both guys fall, both guys jump the hitch. The safety couldn't even have done anything about the hitch. It was like you just need to stay where you were, and
Right.
you'd have been fine.
Well, so this game was simple for me, to include the sacks. Ohio State held Oregon to 28 rushes for negative 23 yards. So if you take out the sacks,
do they
college does. Yeah.
I thought that was only on the quarterback's numbers.
They included into the team stats.
Team stats. Okay.
Yeah.
Seems
so, but if you take the sacks away, they still held Oregon to 16 rushes for 20 yards. So Oregon just never got started. But in true Dan Lanning fashion, he did leave us with a quotable. It wasn't our day, just like it wasn't their day.
Their day against Michigan.
Which
was just it was an odd thing to say. It wasn't even like cool. I mean, it just was like, you sound goofy.
Yeah, if I didn't know any better, I would think Dan Lanning was playing for clicks.
This is can't have that. This is what I think it was, though. This is what I think. I don't think he liked the fact he had to play Ohio State in the second round. I think the lack of a reseed really bothered him. And I think when it was happening, sometimes like you're a fan of sport, and you're watching something, you watch your kids play a sport, and you can see in the third quarter, basketball game, football game, like, you know what? This team is beating. It's like my kid's losing. Like, my kid's team is going to lose. You come to that realization. You start thinking, like, should this team be in the district with my kid's team? Should my kid be in this league with this team? This team seems a little bit more stacked. And I think he kind of realized it was like, we should not have been in a predicament to where we got, they probably had like 20 days off, give or take.
Something like that, yeah.
Somewhere in that space. But then have to come back and play. It's arguably like one of the best teams in the country.
But think about it, though. It's not just the Oregon thing. All 4 teams that had a bye lost.
Yeah, but
all 4 of them lost.
But yeah, I'll give you this. The automatic seeding, I believe they're definitely going to change.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know. I think they'll just go 1 through 12, top 4, which makes the most sense. I think they'll go automatic big, gets conference winners get in. So, for instance, I thought Boise would have been the 12 no matter what.
I think that was the intention when they set this
up. They wrote it out, when they wrote out the rules. But like, that's what happens when you write out a plan, when you write out a travel plan, and it's like, hey, I'm driving from New Jersey and I'm gonna stop in Pittsburgh. It should take us about 6 hours. Well, along the way, a tractor trailer blows a tire. Now you got 2 extra hours. You can't be upset like, oh, we didn't see this happen, and it's part of it. You got to make the adjustments. As long as they don't run it back the same way next year, as long as they make the change to where, because they're going to, I think I saw something that they're going to give 29% of the share of the money earned of revenue to the Big Ten and the SEC in a couple of years. Yeah. I don't know the fuck negotiated.
Yeah, because the deal for the 12-team playoff runs out after next season. So the year after is when they can change, or they can change the format, and they're talking about 14, potentially 16. They're talking about potentially giving the SEC and Big Ten 4 automatic slots.
guaranteed slots.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all because you could end up.
And then
with an
guess what?
8-4 team.
And when the Big Ten and SEC win the national title, people in America, fans are going to be saying the ACC sucks and the Big 12 sucks. And it's like, well, yeah, like the SEC,
they got
the advantages. They got the 4 slots and they're getting the money.
Yeah. So, like I said, as long as they fix the format, I like the reseed. Like just before the 12, just say, all right, these are our 12 teams that are getting in. We rank them 1 through 12. But yeah, bro, I don't think he was happy about that. But honestly, no matter what, you got to have your team ready to play. When you get pounced on that early 31-0, it shows that you weren't ready for a few aspects. Maybe you thought, maybe you were thinking the Michigan game was going to be the carryover, and thinking that maybe Tennessee was an easy enough game to where, like, because I thought Tennessee was such an easy game that Ohio State wasn't going to get their intensity back. I don't know, maybe some information.
Well, I mean, maybe it might just be the fact that you lost to that team earlier this year, and then Mr. Logical, I got sad because that man fell 28 yards short.
Genty?
28 yards short. Penn State dominated that game, but Boise State, and this is the problem, just like SMU, and it's hard because a lot of people just look at the scoreboard, and they go, oh, Boise got dominated. It was just like the SMU game. Boise shot themselves more than Penn State did anything to them.
Yeah, Genty put the ball on the ground a couple times.
Yeah, Penn State came out, jumped out 14-0, and then Boise locked them down for about 2.5 quarters before the springs just leaked, and Boise couldn't score. So therefore, but going forward, Abdul Carter got injured in that game, so we'll see if he can play against Notre Dame. And they got their first game, which is Thursday. So, of course, I got to say it one more time. I say it every time. Cowboys and 49ers. Or I'm sorry, the other way around. 49ers and Cowboys, 1994 and 1995. Penn State and Notre Dame, 1987 and 1988. Who's going to end the drought?
One of them's gonna get through the national championship, so I'm excited for that.
So but then we had yesterday, rest in peace to all the victims down in New Orleans, and that whole tragic thing that went down, and they ended up postponing.
Very strange. Very strange. Just a lot of
then the whole thing in Vegas happened too.
Yeah, but someone said that Cybertruck could have been bad. Like it could have been the battery.
Well, the only reason I find it odd is because they were both Army dudes, so it was just kind of weird,
Yeah. And the bomb, I think the other guy was a Trump guy, so I don't think that was a bomb. And
it's just a weird. Yeah. And then we had the whole shit in New York after. Anyway.
Yeah. That's so in my house chilling.
Yeah. So Georgia came out there with Gunnar Stockton, who didn't look half bad. But the same thing that has flawed Georgia all season flawed Georgia again. They can't run the damn ball. We talked about
can't commit to running the ball.
I don't care that you have Travis Etienne's little brother. He ain't Travis. You know what I'm saying? Like, so Notre Dame, 4 sacks, 9 tackles for losses, 3 forced fumbles. They won the game with Riley Leonard only passing for 90 yards. Georgia finished the season 102nd in rushing, 83rd in yards per attempt. So I don't know what to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's funny to me. It's funny to me because there were a lot of people that picked Georgia to win that game. And now that Notre Dame lost or won that game, but Georgia didn't have their quarterback. You knew that when you picked Georgia to win.
You knew that when you picked Georgia to be in the number 2 spot.
Yes.
He got hurt in the game that you used to decide that they were going to be number 2.
Yep. And then my guy Jeremiah Love, he got hurt. He got the brace on his knee. The knee's been bothering him all year, but I think something got re-aggravated. But as is, you got Notre Dame on Thursday, 7:30 Eastern, as a 1.5-point favorite against the Nittany Lions. And then Friday night at 7:30 Eastern, You got Ohio State and Texas playing up in Jerry World. Talk about a home game, right?
Yeah.
At least Notre Dame and Penn State is in Miami. Texas is getting a home game here, but Ohio State is favored by 6. So, those are your lines for the semifinals, and then you go from there. But then as we were looking around, some news came out, Jimmy Butler with his green hair, was talking a whole lot of mess last night. And the Miami Heat said, well, you know what, Jimmy? Why don't you just hit the showers and take a week off? So I know you probably don't like the suspension.
I absolutely don't like the suspension.
Oh, I absolutely love the suspension. Not because of Jimmy Butler, though. It's not a Jimmy Butler thing. I think that I try to be as pro player as I can. But the NBA is just the wild, wild west as far as these players do what the fuck they want with no consequences. They get whatever they want for the most part. You know what I mean? They get to get their max contract and then halfway through the next year or something say, hey, you know what? You gave me 250, but I don't even want to be here no more.
Yeah.
I
get that part.
You know what I'm saying? So with Jimmy Butler in particular, you have teams like Golden State that have let that jackass ruin their team for the last couple of years after they've won their championships because they won those championships with no real penalties for the things that he does. So it's about time that a team took a stand and said, you know what? Yes, this is a players' league. Yes, the players have power. Yes, the players can do what they want. But some of us are still going to try to hold these guys accountable as best we can. Now, granted, there's probably going to be an appeal process, I'm sure.
Yes, 7 games. 7 games is
that's
extreme.
A lot. I was thinking
Consider
3.
That,
I didn't want him. Let me back up. I didn't want him to be suspended. When I heard that he got suspended, I was like, okay, 2 or 3 games. When I saw 7, I was like, but I get the point that they're trying to make.
The NBA PA is probably not much stronger than the NFL PA, but maybe they'll have some kind of lobbying process. Adam Silver seems to be a very pro player. It comes a point where, relationships end. And I believe the teams relied so much on their leverage. It's like, regardless if the guy's a player and you paying him or whatever the case may be, but once you get to the point where it's recognized, like, yo, this guy doesn't want to be here, we can get somebody else in his place that's going to help us win, because he's not going to help us win. It's like, would you keep a coach that was like, I really don't feel like, I don't have any joy in coaching. I'll show up to work. You wouldn't keep him. You wouldn't suspend Eric Spoelstra if he was like, hey, I don't have any more joy. You would be like, you know what? This is not going to end well for us.
No,
he's not going to turn around. You would let him go to wherever he needs to be, wherever you feel he needs to go. Players, because of contracts, you're going to pay him. You can use it to get assets.
So this is
he's getting paid a lot of money, and I get it. His happiness should be kind of encapsulated in this.
Yeah, there you go, right there. That's the money he's getting right there. He's a free agent after the 2025.
So even suspending him to 7 games is going to cost him $3 million. It's like, what are you really doing? What are you doing? What are you really doing to hurt his pockets? So this I'm saying is it's just a power play where there's no need for a power play. You need a resolution.
So I think both parties are wrong. You know what I mean? I think that Miami has given Jimmy Butler, Mike Tomlin levels of support. You know what I mean? They have not improved that team. They have not made that team a contender. But Jimmy Butler is good enough and has the heart to make this team go. We just saw 2 years ago, they were the 8th seed, and they got to the finals. Granted, they got whooped once they got to the finals, but Bam Adebayo's not a center. And that's why you went out and got Khalil Ware in the draft. But their big move was, hey, let us go get Terry Rozier. And last season, allegedly, Pat Riley was asleep during the trade deadline when they had a Kyle Lowry trade on the table. Now, I say allegedly because the way it was quoted in the article was, quote, he was unavailable due to rest, unquote. So I'm just going to roll with he was asleep. You know what I mean? And that's negligent within itself. Now, Jimmy Butler has been pretty much asking out this whole season so far. Pat Riley came out and said, we're not trading you, which is Pat Riley's right. You know what I mean? As the GM and all that stuff. Like, or I don't know if he's the GM, but he's something. Team president, whatever he is.
Team president, player, personnel.
I know there's Mickey Arison. He might be the owner.
Mickey Arison's the owner, yeah. So I think the player moves go through Pat Riley.
Right. So, but the point being is that you're under contract, as you can see on the screen, you know, for this season and next season. Now, we could talk extension and all that kind of stuff. We could extend you and then trade you. We could extend you, then trade you, whatever. We could do that. But I am committed to you, which players always say they want. Well, how come, and fans, well, how come the team get to trade players? But when the player leaves, everybody gets mad. Well, the team has dedicated and said, no, we want to keep you. And then you went out on TV, a team that has been to the finals twice in the last 4 years.
He was a star.
You got on TV and said,
and he was a missed jumper away from 3 finals.
Right.
The game against Boston.
You went on TV and you said, I lost my smile. I'm ready to go. You know what?
You can lose your joy. Man,
no, you can. You can. You absolutely can. But this is where I get mad at the players. You could lose your joy without trying to fuck me on what I can get back for you.
That's the problem. They already did, because Pat Riley has a lot of power and he has a lot of respect in the league. Mm-hmm. But he did let LeBron James walk. He could have made some moves. LeBron James went to 4 more finals in a row after leaving Miami, then the little break, and then he went to the finals again, and he's still playing. They could have made some – I know you don't want to make all the concessions for your players, but I think he feels like, you know what? I'm the man on these streets. You're going to do what I tell you to do. I told Magic Johnson what to do. I'm not going to listen to you. Cool. Welcome to obscurity. If you're not – because this was going to happen.
They made 2 more finals.
With Jimmy Butler. Now you're treating him like he wasn't the reason. You seen the meme.
What they do to him? Butler. Besides the stuff that I said as far as the team moves, what did they do to him?
They didn't make good moves. They didn't extend him.
So
you don't want guys don't want to play on these dead end contracts. That's the whole point. Like, coaches wouldn't want it. Coaches want extensions. People want security.
How about you play basketball and show me that you're worthy of the extension?
If you don't want me to be here, then let me go somewhere else. How
about you show me that you're worthy of the extension? Because as you can see on the screen, we're talking about ages 35 and 36. That's the
NBA's fault for the way they write their contract.
I know, but I'm supposed to give you an extension just because.
When he was 34, they gave him $45 million. At 36, they'll give him $52. This is how the NBA paints themselves into the corner.
That's treating you bad?
Well, now I'm talking about you can't move them. You can't move them in a trade, because that's probably the biggest thing is like, you gave them the little bit of money up front, and you go give them the money on the back end.
And you know what? If they didn't give him the money, you would be saying, look at what they did to Jimmy Butler. They already did it to LeBron. So the team can't win. If they didn't extend him or give him a contract, it was, hey, Jimmy Butler took them to the finals and they didn't even take care of him. They haven't extended him yet, even though he's going to be 36 years old. It's why y'all ain't extend his old ass yet.
But they knew he was going to be 36 years old when they extended him the first time. And they would decide.
So why do I need to extend him right now?
So what's the difference between giving me 52 million at 36 versus giving me maybe, 50 million at 37 and 50 million at 38?
Ain't nothing the difference. But the problem is that I told you, okay, you made a request. I want to be traded. I said, no, I don't want to trade you. So you said, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to make myself a malcontent and go crazy and disrespectful and talk shit until you trade me.
him being honest in the press conference, like, hey, I don't have my joy here. Maybe that should have been in the house, but it's probably something he said in the house. He's allowed to say whatever he wants at the press conference. It wasn't,
and there's consequences for that.
It's like, hey, I lost my joy here.
But you're also talking about the leader of the team. We're not talking about Terry Rozier or Nikola Jovic saying this. This is the heart and soul of your team that's saying these things. So I agree that it is detrimental to the team.
If a coach,
I don't think he should be suspended, though.
If the coach went out there and said, I have a team of guys that don't play with any heart on a consistent basis, that's a simple statement, right? Would you suspend the coach if he said, hey, I got a bunch of guys that don't play with heart?
No, because the coach is in a position to lead men.
So a guy on the team that goes to the podium was like, listen, I don't have any joy here.
That wasn't all he said, though. That wasn't all he said. If he would have just said, I have no joy, cool, bro. We've all been there.
It was like, can you get it back here? He was like, no.
No, that ain't all he said. That still ain't all he said.
Can you get it back while you're here? He was like, no.
No, that still ain't all he said. Pat Riley said, I'm not trading you. He said, I don't have joy, and we'll see what team I end up on in the next few weeks. That's what he said.
You said going forward.
Either way, I have already made it known to you that I'm not trading you. Don't go on fucking TV talking about what team you gonna play for, because I already told you.
Own me.
Yes, I do.
I can see what I want.
Yes, I do.
You own my contract.
While you're under contract on this team, you shut the fuck up and do what I say.
Kiss my ass. Kiss my whole black ass.
No, just okay. Time out. Let's back up for a second.
I get it. I get that.
Hold up. Let's back up. Let's back up for a quick second.
It's like, if you go out there and I tell you I'm not trading you, that's
he has. But so what?
I'm allowed to go to the media.
Not you. I'm talking to Mike in the comments. That's what it is. Like, but no. Hold. Let's back up for a second. So we saw, and I know these are two different things, but we're just having a conversation. So we saw a general get fired for criticizing the president. You know what I'm saying? Criticizing the committee. I know. Just hold on.
That's not written into my contract.
I know. Just hold on.
It's not a written thing.
Just hold on. Just hold on a second.
You know, I'm not a pro authority guy off the rip.
No, I'm just saying though. I'm not trying to be pro authority. What I'm trying to be is, we are it's a relationship. You made a request. I said no. Right? Okay. You can voice your displeasure with me and say, Pat, I want to go. Pat, why you holding on to me? Pat, why you doing this? You know what I'm saying? When you're out there just blatantly, as I already said, I'm not trading you. You're blatantly talking about the team that I end up on, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, like, I can find joy going forward.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so now, hold on, wait. So if you don't do nothing about it, if you don't do anything about it,
probably not.
So if you don't do anything about it or say anything, I'm not saying he should have been suspended, but I'm just saying if you didn't do all that, 2-3 years from now, I'm gonna be doing this same thing I'm gonna be having the same conversation with Bam. Bam gonna be doing the same thing in the media. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to handle it now.
Do your job better.
Exactly. And I said that at the beginning of this conversation. They're doing Mike Tomlin levels of disrespect to Jimmy Butler with the rosters that they're constructing.
I'm out here. I got a few years left in the league. We know what happens to teams when they end up at the bottom in consecutive years.
And what up, Mike?
You got Tyler here out here getting slammed, and then he run 15 feet from the fight and watch everybody else squabble. And it's like, yo, what's the deal? Like, he hopped up mad quick and then did like a weird Pythagorean theory and angle to get to the back. I'm like, yo, what are you doing here? It's like, so with Jimmy Butler, I get it. You may dislike what he said in the media, but he's allowed to say, I don't have my joy here.
I was going to bring that up, Mike. You read my mind.
Hey, he was like, he can say, I love it here, and they can't suspend him from having, like, listen, you can't talk like that in the media, but if you say something we don't like, we can just suspend you. He didn't say anything disparaging about Pat Riley. He didn't give away any secrets of the team. He didn't text some guy saying, hey, we're going to be running 50 and motion offense all game and we're going to be doubling. He didn't give away any secrets. It's just Pat Riley in this mentality of you listen to me because I'm the legend, you're the pauper. I'm the legend. I call the shots here. He did the same thing with LeBron. LeBron been in the league 12 years since then, has been playing at a high level.
LeBron was slightly different though. LeBron was slightly different though.
But Pat Riley's behavior
because LeBron was trying to basically control the team and have his cake and do all these things. Like Jimmy Butler just wants to play basketball.
I'm talking about at the end when
that's what I'm talking about.
He could have. Pat Riley could have.
LeBron wasn't staying, so you need to stop the cap to begin with. He wasn't staying.
Maybe he wanted to get Kyrie down to Miami.
No, he did not. His ass wanted to go ride the wave. He a dick riding, you know what, that loves the attention. That's what he is.
You know we don't do name calling. We're grown men here.
No, I'm name calling. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just saying.
Like, he is the attention, but all I'm saying is this. Pat Riley did the same thing.
LeBron wasn't staying.
Pat Riley could have made real. He only got one contract out of LeBron in that group. I think he could have kept that group together. Or longer. I just feel like he didn't want to make any concessions. Maybe LeBron wanted too much. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying that the initial what they say, writer, like when a celebrity comes and they're like, hey, I want all.
You treating LeBron Skittles. Like this Drake conversation we had earlier.
Listen, well, you gotta
LeBron can't do no wrong.
I didn't say he didn't do anything wrong. I was
LeBron wasn't staying.
I literally hold on, time out. First of all, I could have said he could have asked for too much. That's what I was getting to before you got onto your feels and sat back with your arm cocked.
I ain't got no feels. I'm just telling the truth up in here. I can't help it that you lying.
I get it. He could have asked for too much. He could have wanted too much. I am not denying that. But when you look at what I need for a basketball team, sometimes you have to make concessions for certain players. Certain players, Tom Brady probably could ask for more. Peyton Manning asked for a lot. Certain players get.
You know that Wade was on his last legs.
Nick Saban in Alabama got more perks than Lane Kiffin in Ole Miss. It's not saying that Lane Kiffin doesn't deserve what he got, but Nick Saban asking for, hey, I want 15 different helmets for every one of my players. I know that's extreme, but if he can ask for that, and you come back to Nick and say, hey, Nick, I can't do 15. I could do 5. Like, I mean,
Wade was on his last legs. You know what I mean? People didn't really believe in Bosch anyway. And LeBron might have known.
More than likely.
LeBron might have known about
the grass was greener back in Ohio.
Now, the one thing that I don't remember is I don't necessarily remember how the Bosch thing played out. But I do believe that Bron, Wade, and Bosch were friends.
His health.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that I don't know if that was something that could have been there and something that they had talked about that LeBron knew about.
I would hope not. I would hope that if my friend, someone I played 4 years with and we recruited for a long time, if he was going through a blood disease, I wouldn't use that as leverage to like get out of my
no, you wouldn't do that. But adding that on to Wade falling apart because those
more likely he was out of there.
Yeah,
but
he was out of there.
I think that whole 4 years is probably a lot of control that maybe. Listen, I give it to you. The Lakers, whatever control they gave to LeBron early on, the pendulum might have swung too far one direction. And then they try to swing it back the other way after they got the championship and they got the popularity and the stadium was packed and so forth and so on. And now it seems like nothing that he kind of wants happens. I get it. And you can't always cower to all your players. But the Lakers did it with Kobe at the end of his career. They cut him the check. They're like, hey, your swan song check. If you are trying to start over in Miami, then Jimmy Butler's probably your best piece. He's a great piece for a team like Golden State, maybe even a team like OKC or a team that's on the verge. I don't know what Phoenix has. I don't know what they can offer you, but it should be like, you know what? You've been here this long. We don't want the relationship to sour this way, but someone has to be, for quote unquote, the adult in the room. Someone has to be willing to be like, you know what? in order to make a good business deal, you both got to give up something. I think Pat Riley does not want to give up anything. That's my issue with Pat Riley, because I think he looks at it like he has the resume, but his resume is off the backs of everybody else. He didn't do shit as a player. Everything he got is off the fact that he had the best players in his organization, and even then still needed the greatest of the greatest players who play the game to get him over the hump. So he's acting as if he's putting together this great team. The Olympics put together your goddamn big three.
But that's the problem, right? And that's the problem, and that's why
the Lakers. And then you didn't get much popping in New York. You didn't get a chip.
But so that's the problem, and that's why I made the Mike Tomlin parallel, because you got the results, right? So like Mike Tomlin, no losing seasons. You make the playoffs. Granted, you don't always win a playoff game, but you make the playoffs. So with the Heat, they were getting to the finals. So to some degree, you look at things and say, we're right there. You know what I mean? You don't like, I'm not going to overreact and mess up the chemistry. Because the one guy that laid it on the line.
There's one, like, that's what I mean. I think Pat Riley, and I get it. He's probably forgotten more about basketball than I ever know. But I do know how you treat people, and I know how you got your end result. You walked into a team with Magic Johnson and Kareem and these legends, and then you walked into a legendary team in the Garden, and then you slid down to Miami, and Wade and Shaq fell in your lap, and you got a chip out of it. But nothing else happened until you got Wade, Bosh, and LeBron having conversations in 08 about joining up in 10. So what did you do to make that happen?
Well, he tried to get Dame, and that didn't work out. Obviously nobody wanted Tyler Hero. They tried to find 3-team trades, and nobody wanted him.
Whose fault is it that you have assets on your team that you can't trade to other teams?
That's your fault.
That's your fault.
That's your fault. Like, and that's why I started this conversation that way. And so I'm acknowledging that, what I'm saying? Yeah. But at the same time, saying, like, Jimmy,
there's a professional way of handling it.
He got frustrated, and I get it. I've been frustrated before. I didn't always say the right thing. I didn't always do the right thing. So I'm not banging on Jimmy per se. I'm just reacting to a situation. So I've been there before, what I'm saying? I mean, me and my commander almost got into a fist fight one time. You know what I mean? So I know what it's like. But at the same time, he did deserve it. You know what I'm saying? He was being a bitch. But but at the same time, what I'm saying, Jimmy Butler, he could have said everything that he said last night. But it's also the way you said it, the time and place that you said it. We're 17-15. So are you just being a sore loser right now, first of all? You know what I'm saying? Second of all, what I mean? You're only averaging 17 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, good shooting percentage and everything, but you ain't out here averaging 24, 25. You know what I mean?
He never really does that. He's always had, like, the other guys that did that.
But you also, but the same way, but there's one thing that you're missing. There's one thing that you are missing, though. So I will concede, yes, and Pat Riley be fucking up. And, saying he pisses off people. He grinds people into the ground. He's still in the 1980s, and the rest of the world has evolved. So, okay, I'll give you that. But it ain't like Jimmy Butler got the best reputation for how he leaves teams either. Like, we saw what he did in Minnesota. You know what I'm saying? We saw what he did in Chicago.
And we saw what it looked like when he left.
And we saw what he did in Philly.
So he must see
Philly
something.
Wasn't necessarily his fault, though.
Philly, they picked Tobias Harris over him. And that's what I'm saying. So I get this a lot in conversations because I've been told that I come off very abrasive.
No, I like that shit.
I know, like, I'm never gonna change.
I fight fire with fire, so it works for me.
The thing that always works against the person who says it to me in conversation is like, listen, I get that it comes off. I'm a big body. I'm loud. I talk with my hands, But was I right before the action was occurred? Yes. So I was right. So when I said do not do this, or this is probably going to be the result, and then the result turns out that way, don't come back to me and tell me my approach was wrong. Or if I analyze something and I get to the bottom of it by saying, okay, this is how you feel, but how did you get to this point? What information you used to get to this point? And it was like, okay, I'm like, okay, well, that information is not true. Like, well, you don't let me get to my, that's not the point. If I'm telling you, and if I'm Jimmy Butler and I'm like, listen, these guys don't practice hard, or this guy isn't a winner, and this guy, if you pick him over me, this is what your franchise is going to look like. If I've done that 3 times in the NBA and then gone on another team and I've gone to the finals 2 times, I feel like I've earned enough cachet to be able to speak to you as the GM, owner, player,
Maybe, but it's not like he took Philly to the finals or something.
He just knew. I mean, the Kawhi travel probably would have been a little different. But he knew, like, listen, you keep me. Imagine that you had Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid versus what you were getting out of Tobias Harris all those years.
They'd have beat the Hawks.
Tobias Harris was getting. People were looking at his check like, yo, he's getting $180 million. He got $180 million. So Jimmy Butler getting the Miami Heat is an 8 seed to the finals. Well, they were 5 when they went in the bubble. They were an 8 when they went against Denver. And the year before, that 3-pointer goes in. They beat Boston that year as well. So they would have been in the finals 3 out of 4 years. Granted, they probably wouldn't have won them because they're just playing it. The teams from the West were just better, bigger built for the finals than Miami was. Boston probably should have been out of the East because I think Boston was built a little bigger. They could have competed, but they couldn't beat Jimmy Butler's tenacity that exuberated, like that was exasperated to the team. Now he's like, yo, the team isn't picking up on that.
All right, so last thing before
cut it out, Mike. Cut it out.
Last thing before we get out of here. What teams do you think are players in this conversation?
I'll say Denver. I think the Michael Porter Jr. move. I don't know how the money matches up. I can just see them making.
I think the money matches real well. Let's see what Michael.
It's going to be tough though because you're going to end up with two glue aggressive guys that were older with Westbrook and Jimmy Butler. I don't know if you could play them side by side. I don't know.
Porter's at 35 this year.
Jimmy's at 48.
Yeah, so you throw a pick or two, and like maybe throw another player, like one of the young dudes, like
or you
Christian
get like
Brown or Peyton Watson or something.
Yeah, you get like Charlotte involved. Maybe they throw an expiring contract that somebody has going, and you make the money match up.
But it could happen.
I just don't see Pat Riley really bending until somebody else comes to him and say, "Listen."
Well, I think he just has to now.
Like, you can't keep suspending him. You can't keep suspending the guy because he's unhappy with.
Well, I think after last night, you have to move him. Like, there's no other.
You're gonna have to John Wall. Just keep him on the bench. Keep him in street clothes.
Who else you like besides Denver, though? Is there anybody else that stands? I got a few teams I had in mind.
I think Golden State probably could use it. It's teams on their last leg.
They definitely want them. They definitely want them, and Miami wants Kuminga. So that could be worth it. Because I mean, it doesn't seem as though either Kuminga isn't consistent enough, or Steve Kerr doesn't believe in Kuminga enough.
Yeah, I don't think he likes the way he plays. I think Kuminga's supposed to take a 22-foot shot, and he'll make 2 dribbles and try to get a contested 12-foot shot. And Steve is like, the play is for you to shoot this. But the NBA, you can want whatever you want. It just, you got to make it match.
He doesn't have any leverage. That's the problem. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. Jimmy, like, to some degree, Jimmy took the leverage away. So like it could be one of those situations where you get like Michael Porter Jr. and 4 second-round picks or something. You know what I mean? Like, but so there's 2 teams that stand out to me. I thought about this, and so the first team that I thought about was Memphis. And maybe you send Marcus Smart and something else. Because Jimmy Butler, I think, for a young team like that, Marcus Smart provides a certain leadership, but he's not Jimmy Butler play-wise. So I think that could potentially work. I think Phoenix could be a thing, but the only problem is you would probably have to talk Bill into the no trade or giving up the no trade.
Yeah, and I don't know if he wants to go down to Miami and play tough defense.
Could you maybe
player.
And I just thought about this as we were talking just now. Could you potentially call Dallas and say, give me PJ Washington and one of those big men?
Dallas sitting at 20 and 15. Luka being out for a while. I don't know if Luka and Jimmy work. Jimmy kind of has like a thing with the star that he expects to do more.
I like that though, Mike. I like that. You know what I'm saying? I would take that if I was Miami, but I don't know
if I'm Memphis at 23 and 11, I don't know if I needed Jimmy Butler.
You do. But we've seen this story.
I don't think a lot of moves. I don't think there's a lot of moves, and it's not just the
okay.
player.
How about this?
I just don't think there's a lot of moves I don't think there's a lot of moves that are like worth pushing your chips in this early.
Cover your ears, Mike. I was thinking, and this was something that I didn't know if I was actually going to bring it up, but I'll go ahead and bring it up. Cover your ears, Mike. Maybe you make a trade for somebody like a DeRozan.
I don't know if you can move DeRozan.
Not yet. I mean, there's like the whole rule where like you have
like
to
I don't know. I don't know
date.
if he has a January thing. I know that was a DeAndre Ayton thing because maybe it was like the early because he had the year he got his extension.
Yeah.
I don't think I wouldn't call Jimmy a cancer because he's a weirdo. Yeah, he's strange, but I think people understand that. I wouldn't call him a cancer. I would just say like his behavior is kind of like this malcontent behavior. I just don't think once he gets to a point where it's like, I'm done with this team, it's very abrupt and it's very in your face. And it's like, yo, tone it down a little bit. Because I think Dame really liked being in Portland, but I think he knew
it was over.
He knew for a while it was over and
Yeah.
he just was playing through it. But he's a chill, laid back Oakland dude. He's not over the top. So for him, he just probably went to the front office like, yeah, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to get an opportunity to win. Jimmy's like, listen, I'm not doing this again. You saw what happened when I was in Minnesota. You saw what happened when I went to Philly. I'm not dealing with this front office BS again. Yeah, keep in mind, this is 4th time around.
Are you
and he came up with a little bit more of a grind, too. So it's like he probably has a chip on his shoulder to this day.
Are you willing, last question, are you willing to trade him to another East team?
I would. I trade him in conference.
Because I'm thinking, if I'm a team like, say, and I know this is going to be real sacrilege, but if I'm a team like Atlanta, could I get Trae Young some help? Or do you think that doesn't work like the Luka thing?
I think he can get Trae Young to work a little harder because I think Trae Young has the body to put out more energy. I think Embiid was just always kind of hurt, and I think Luka. I think
that was the pause button, by the way.
Oh, the body to put out, make him work harder. I thought after I said it,
Mr. Logical said Trae ain't putting his back into it.
Don't say you could do it, put your back into it. Ice Cube style.
No, not the Spurs. Not the Spurs. I don't want him nowhere near Wemby. I already got Chris Paul in there. I don't want him nowhere near Wemby.
I mean, Wemby might turn into a fighter. He needs to stop flopping.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Plus, we got my guy Steph Castle down there too. So no, I don't want no Jimmy Butler down here.
more likely, I think that your best bet is going to be a team from the West with a young star that's getting paid that they can flood it with a bunch of
Honestly,
second
I
round
send his
picks.
ass back to the Bulls, to be honest with you.
He might not, like, honestly, it might not be a lot of places he can go. I think I said Denver.
Well, it depends,
If they
right?
really want to move Michael Porter Jr., I know the Lakers don't have any assets whatsoever. Maybe Clippers, maybe they want to make a move.
Yeah, trade like what? Like maybe Norman Powell and somebody?
Some pieces, like just get the math to work right.
Maybe what's his name?
Maybe the Kings are looking to make a move.
What's my man name on the Clippers? I can't even think of his name right now.
Not Zubac. I don't think
no, the point guard dude, lanky dude.
I'm drawing a blank too.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I'll have to look it up. But his name is like right on the tip of my, pause. But
is that Cam? Like,
no, what is his name? Terrence Mann.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was trying to think.
He's an older guy, right? He's an older player.
He's like 28, I want to say.
But with the Clippers, like, I think Steve Ballmer I think he likes a challenge. I think he likes star power. I think he likes getting, those marquee players. So that could be a move that you could potentially entertain. But I don't know if there's that many places, and maybe that's why Pat Riley's like, "Yeah, I'm not trading you," because
I don't know if I like Butler.
There's no one desperate enough.
I don't like Butler and Harden though.
I think I like Harden's ability to adjust. I think he's been able to adjust his game a lot. I think he probably added a year or so to his career by not playing the way he was playing in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Because because he was taking his usage rate.
I don't know, like Jimmy and Kawhi next to each other at some point. Like that'd be great defense, I guess.
Yeah,
but
8 years ago, it'd be an incredible thing. And that's the problem with the NBA is like all these guys are ended up on the same teams because this whole legacy chasing championships instead of just playing good basketball.
You might even want to call. I mean, they probably won't deal with you, but you might even want to call Brooklyn and see if they want to come off a pick or something.
Brooklyn's making peculiar moves,
so that probably ain't going to work either. Because that's the other thing, right? Because if you trade him somewhere
out here capping for Cooper,
like if
we're playing hard basketball, nigga, that.
If you send him somewhere like Charlotte or Washington or whatever, like you're just going to get killed because it's going to be like, yo, you could have did Jimmy better than that, and they would probably just, that team would probably buy him out anyway. But I don't know.
That's the most likely scenario as you look around, because if I'm Orlando, I don't want any old heads. If you think about it, seem like how I always kind of criticize Houston for their moves. It's like I don't want too many old heads and rising star young heads.
I mean, you can move Dylan Brooks.
That would be it, but I don't know if he's a Miami guy. He's kind of
Dylan Brooks.
He's a less protective. He's a less protective knucklehead. Yeah, he's a less. I think it might. Well, you can't get them both.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's too much money. Like maybe Dylan Brooks and
you have to send Jimmy and Duncan Robinson and Fred and Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. I'm sure this won't be the last time we talk about it. So
somebody's going to have our idea on their show in the next day or two.
So
anywhere else, you send these people a message like, "Yo, I know where you stole that from."
So we will be back on Tuesday, of course, with picks because we got Notre Dame and Penn State on Thursday at the Orange Bowl. We got Ohio State and Texas at Jerry World on Friday. So we'll have some picks. We'll get into some playoff look-aheads, for the NFL. We'll have all the seeds. Everybody will be in place. So we'll see if Pittsburgh ends up going to Baltimore. But, but he is the even kill, Mr. Logical. And all he asks of you is that you don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And, of course, the guitars sound like Parliament. You know what I'm saying? Aggie Daddy over and out. We love you. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Enjoy your football this weekend. Enjoy a little basketball. Love on your family. Peace.